Greg Norman was one of the best drivers of the golf ball that the game had ever seen. And he did three little things before he even started his swing that allowed him to do just that. I'm going to share with you today what those three are. Now the first one has to do with aiming. Now believe it or not, aiming a club face, aiming a driver is more difficult than an iron, and that's simply because the club is longer, okay, it has less loft on it, and also the face has what we call more bulge and roll. All right, so when you set a driver down on the ground, it tends to want to rotate a little bit, and there's really not a straight leading edge like there would be on a 6-iron or a putter. It's one of the reasons, quite honestly, with the MaxVert 2, while we put the auto aim alignment on the top, we call it the AAA, because aiming the club face is really important. But here's how Greg Norman did it. So when he was set in there, what he would do is he would put his feet kind of together and he would hold the club in his trail hand only. Now by holding the club in my trail hand only, all of my focus is down on the club face. I'm making sure the club face is perfectly aimed at my target, which in this particular shot right here is that yellow pole. Nick, how does that look? Does that look like I've got that aimed pretty good? Okay, Nick gave me a thumbs up. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. All right, be sure to subscribe and like this video, and be sure to tell us where you're from. We love hearing where you're from. So the first thing that Greg Norman did is he held the driver in his trail hand only, and he aimed the club face before he did anything with his feet. Because if you're gonna get one thing correct in your aim, make it the club face. They're all important. Feet, hips, body, all that are important, but the king of the hill is the club face, all right? The second thing that Greg Norman did with his setup, all right, once he got the face, is he had this little mini step where he took his trail foot and he stepped it back this way. See that? Okay, so he set in like this, and then his first move was to take his trail foot and step it back and then square up, okay, with his stance and his body. Now, why did he do that? Why did he go from here to this way? Because a slightly closed stance with your driver is ideal if you're trying to hit a nice high draw. Not to get real deep into the golf swing and about how when we hit up on the golf ball, it makes it more difficult to draw. We got tons of different videos on that. We talk about that in our book, The Bad Lie, all those types of things. But when you set up with the stance that's ever so slightly closed, it allows you to swing the club a little bit more from the inside. Now the key here, the real key combo that Norman did, worked pretty well for him, right? Is that the face was square. Remember tip number one he did, the face was square to the target line, but his initial move back this way slightly closed his stance. So when it was all said and done, his club face was perfectly square, pointed at the target, but his feet was slightly closed, which allowed him to swing a little bit from the inside. Let me go ahead and hit one, and then we'll talk about the third thing. So here we go, let's go through the process that we've learned so far. Aim the club face, step back, boom, closed, go ahead and swing it. Oh, Nick, I hope you got that one. That wasn't as good as Greg Norman, but it was pretty good for me. It was a nice high draw. The third thing that Norman did was he had a very distinct waggle. A very distinct waggle. It looked like this. He would get in there, right? Here we go. Aim, step back, boom, and then he would do this. He had a couple of these. Everybody see that? See how they're just moving the club head? Why would he do this? Well, what club in your bag creates a lot of tension? Well, sometimes putting, if we miss some short putts, but typically it's the driver, right? There's a lot of tension because you want to hit it long, you want to hit it straight, you feel like you got to really get after it, and that creates a lot of tension. But by having a waggle, okay, here we go, aim the club face, step, step, okay, and having a little bit of a waggle like this, that releases the tension in the forearms, okay, and allows us to create some nice flow and rhythm to the swing. So here we go, the three things number one is we get in, we aim the club face, we slightly close the stance, we give it a little bit of a waggle, and then we go ahead and swing it. Those are the three things that Greg Norman, one of the all-time greats, did. Now that we've helped your driving, check out our next video. And if you want to personally work with us on your golf game, check out dlscoaching.com.